the USA, summer 2011. At the 9th Jet World Masters Championship, Vitaly Robertus became world champion for the first time. 2 years later, at the next championship in Switzerland, a brand new model of the Yak 130 rose into the sky. Vitaly won again, and the IGMC Challenge Cup took its place in the Hall of Fame of Jet Club. Two times world champion Vitaly Robertus and the team of the best Russian modelists are getting ready for the next challenge in Germany. Convincing victories at the two championships were mainly the result of the high static scores. The model's accuracy and the level of details were just too good for the other competitors. Taking into account the importance of what the static score gives the total score, it is becoming clear that for many participants, the competition is losing its attraction, especially for those who compete with factory kits. This fact caused the International Jet World Committee to change the rules for the upcoming competition. The accuracy requirements and the documentation supply were significantly lowered. This means that the high level of accuracy of the RusJet Yak 130 no longer affects a static score. This is what they left out of the competition: active MFDs in both cockpits, cockpit panel backlights and landing lights, pilot animation, retractable pilot steps, internal fuse panels, ground power supply panel, active APU. In other words, the key feature of the model, the ultimate accuracy, is off the show. The new rules forced them to create new strategies to compete effectively in the forthcoming 11th World Championship. Taking into account the expected drop in the difference between static scores, they focused on flight performance. Pavel Lapshov and Vasily Echner are practicing on 13.5 kg class models. Lapshov, the RusJet coach, is to put his hands on the stick at this championship. Vitaly Robertus will be competing in a 20 kg class. August 2015, Germany. The grand opening ceremony of the 11th Jet World Masters Championship. 60 participants from 15 countries, among them a Russian team with Vitaly Robertus as the team leader.
All of you today in White Kiev Unterzahl.
The Russian team is represented by 4 pilots. 2 times world champion Vitaly Robertus with the Yak 130 in a large class. Pavel Lapshov with a brand new model of the Yak 130. Vasily Echner with a model of an F-15 and Mikhail Balenko with the upgraded MiG-15 model. It is the first World Championship where Pavel Lapshov is participating as the pilot. This decision was made up to strengthen the team's performance. For 14 years of age, Vasily Echner, who is the multiple champion of the Russian National Junior RC League, This World Championship is his first international competition. The whole Russian team performed test flights today. We were given less time than in the last year, but every pilot managed to perform at least one test flight. Some of them even flew twice. The flight area is good, no obstacles. The only issue is the sun in the first half of the day. We are fully prepared to fly next week.
First of all, I would like to say
they will no longer meet Russian manager Viktor Lashmanov in a briefing. He died tragically in June 2015. Each and every IJMC enthusiast and professional deeply appreciated the passion that Victor gave to the IJMC community. Normally, prior to the flight rounds, there is a calibrating flight to establish a flight zone and discover its peculiarities. The flight jury is represented by an international team of 5 people, among them an international IJMC judge Alexei Prokhorov, a former pilot of the MiG-29 display team Swifts of the Russian Air Forces. After this calibrating flight, they test the scoring system and finalize flight guidelines for pilots. In the first flight round, in the light class, Russians are flying quite well. There are some mistakes on Mikhail Balenko's landing. Vasily Ehner is showing decent piloting of his F-15 model. It has to be said that it is not easy to fly this model, especially upon landing. Vasily controls this bird confidently. I remember my first Russian championship. I was definitely more nervous than it. As mentioned earlier, Pavel Lapshov is piloting at the Jet World Masters Championship for the first time. Yet it does not affect his scores, which are quite high. This is the logical result of his 10 years as a coach and intensive flight training prior to the championship. I'm back from the flight, back to reality. The excitement is slowly disappearing, at least I can feel this. Everything is looking good. The Swiss and German teams are strengthened by skillful young pilots. Each team has 8 pilots in total, the maximum allowed at the competition. One of the pretenders for the champion's title in the 20 kg class is German Stefan Volker, who is the one of the best IJMC pilots. He flies an L-39 model based on a factory kit, a notoriously easy model to fly and one of the most popular pilot choice. Vitaly Robertus is getting ready to fly in a first tour. His 1:4 scale model of a Yak-130 is the winner of the previous championship.
считаю, что первый полет был сделан неплохо.
From my perspective, the first flight was quite good. We managed to gain about 2600 points, and we still have a margin to gain more in the next two flights. We need some good weather to do this. I'm personally pleased with the results, but my trainer Pavel Lapshov said no, it could have been better. This is a common situation. A trainer shouldn't be pleased because he's a trainer.
Тем не менее, да, так всегда, тренер не должен быть доволен.
Traditionally, Vitaly's model attracts spectators. The famous Yak-130 fascinates with its accuracy of design and amount of authentic parts and details. A final check before the static evaluation stage requires everyone to be extra focused. They check the external parts and surfaces for possible damage caused by transportation. Both the Yak-130 models get the maximum static score. Vitaly Robertus' model is still the reference for accuracy in its class. Pavel's Yak-130 also exceeds IGMC requirements. There were no doubts about them getting a high score. The F-15 of Vasily Ehner receives good static scores and leaves the F-15 of Jason Bauer from the US team behind. The static stage was interesting because our F-15 was next to the US F-15. This seems a common situation at this championship. There are two MiG-15s from Russia and US and two F-15s from both teams again. The static stage sequence was generated absolutely randomly by the toss of a coin. It is curious to look at how the judges rate both pairs of models standing next to each other on the podium and then flying one after another in the flight tours. By this time, all the pilots have performed flight in the first tour. Let's wait for the second and third. As usual, the spectacular show program is in its place. Among the stunts, the unique joint performance of a real plane and its radio-controlled copy. There is extreme mastery and perfect interaction between the two pilots in every single element of the flight. This clock symbolizes the harsh route through winds and failures at the Jet World Masters. These fragments perfectly represent the dramatic moments of many past competitions.
Yeah, which plane? Which plane? It's maybe
According to the results of the second tour, Robertus and Lapshov are the leaders of their classes. Me and Vasily, we've passed 2 flight rounds without any bad grades or penalties. Let's go for third round. Vasily Ehner successfully finishes his third round and comes 11th. This is a good result for junior pilots and has a positive effect on the overall team score.
Hey, perfect, young man.
Yeah.
For the first time.
For first time for
It's
competition.
perfect.
The best Jet World Masters pilots are on the way to the final round. Belgian Philip Everts performs in a 13.5 kg class with the model of a Fugger Magister trainer. Federico Resina from the Italian team will be piloting a model of the light Fiat G91R fighter. Both models are outstanding machines. The Fiat G91R model has a thicker wing airfoil in comparison to the prototype. This means the pilot sacrifices static points for extra flight characteristic of the model, especially at low speed. In other words, the main task is to gain points in the flight part of the competition. Pavel Lapshov overtakes all the competitors and confidently aims at victory in the 13.5 kg class with his Yak 130. Vitaly Robertus is the leader in the 20 kg class. 2 German pilots are behind him with a small gap in between. Both Stefan Volker and Thomas Gleisner represent big RC model production factories. Stefan flies his L39 with improved details. The prototype for Gleisner's model is an American F-104 starfighter from the 50s. Back then it was nicknamed a rocket with a man inside. The plane was extremely hard to control. The model of this rapid machine is very difficult to handle, yet it seems quite controllable in the hands of a skillful pilot. The display performance of Vitaly Robertus closes the flight stage of the championship.
Many thanks. So, einen großen Applaus für Federico Resina, Philip Everts, and Pavel Lapshov, Italy, Belgium, Russia. So, we have Thomas Gleisner, dritter Platz, Stefan Völker, zweiter Platz, Vitaly Robertus, erster Platz, 20 Kilogramm. Das sind unsere Weltmeister.
Leute, wir bedanken uns. Ihr seid Spitze.
Русские победили.
Yes!
Немцы. Немцы.
Thank you.
Russian pilots received Champions Cups and additional prizes. First place in both classes. Best scoring. Best flight performance in 13.5 kg class. Best newcomer. Youngest pilot. Team trophy. In the final team score, the Russians lost to the Germans by less than 1%. For the team of half as many pilots than were in the other competing teams, this is definitely a serious result and a fair achievement. Pavel Lapshov is the winner in a 13.5 kg class. Vitaly Robertus became the winner for the third time in a row in a 20 kg class. This means the cup is no longer a challenge cup. It has changed its status. Now it is an IJNC Wristjet Cup, which will never leave Russia. Ground power supply panel. Active APU. In other words, the key feature of the model, the ultimate accuracy, is off the show. The new rules forced them to create new strategies. Convincing victories at the two championships were mainly the result of the high static scores. The model's accuracy and the level of details were just too good for the other competitors. Taking into account the importance of what the static score gives the total score, it is becoming clear that for many participants, the competition is losing its attraction, especially for those who compete with factory kits. This fact caused the International Jet World Committee to change the The USA, summer 2011. At the 9th Jet World Masters Championship, Vitaly Robertus became world champion for the first time. Rules for the upcoming competition. The accuracy requirements and the documentation supply were significantly lowered. This means that the high level of accuracy of the Wristjet Yak 130 no longer affects a static score. This is what they left out of the competition: active MFDs in both cockpits, cockpit panel backlights and landing lights. pilot animation. Retractable pilot steps. Internal fuse panel. 2 years later, at the next championship in Switzerland, a brand new model of the Yak 130 rose into the sky. Vitaly won again, and the IGMC Challenge Cup took its place in the Hall of Fame of Ruschet Club. Two times world champion Vitaly Robertus and the team of the best Russian modelists are getting ready for the next challenge in Germany.